What's up, man?
Hey, Mr. Mike, how are you doing, sir?
Doing okay, man. I'm happy to be back online talking with you again. We struggled to get together this month. It's like things were conspiring against us multiple times.
Yeah.
The
Well, I mean,
following
it's
program
mostly good
features a
stuff, though. I
bunch
mean,
of
you're busy, I'm
guesses
busy.
talking
That's
about the
beats the
automotive
alternatives, right? If we
aftermarket.
had
The
nothing
stuff
but time,
we
we'd
or
probably
our guests may say
For
probably
sure.
do
have a
not
lot less of other
necessarily
stuff.
reflect the beliefs of our peers, our sponsors, or any other associations we may have. There may be some spicy language in this show, so if you get your feelings hurt easily, you should probably just move along. So without further ado, it's time for Confessions of a Shop Owner with your host, Mike Allen.
Last week was absolutely bonkers. I had a little bit of my own medicine because I'm a proponent of this fast hiring methodology, and you put out a big signing bonus there if they start tomorrow, right? And I've been doing that for a while, but I guess Modern Tire Dealer, I did an interview with them, and they put all that out there in their episode. And I think the Auto Service Leader put it in there one of their articles, and that happened to me last week. It was like, "Hey, man, I'm so sorry, but I got this offer, and it was not an offer I was willing to match." And I was like, "Well, you got to do what you got to do, man. I understand. Best of luck." And he said, "And they're giving me $3,000 if I have my toolbox there by the end of the day today." And I was like, "I'll help you clean up."
You
You
said,
know?
you said touche.
Yeah, I can't be mad at the shop for making the offer because I think it would be pretty ironic if they read about it in that interview and used it against me. That's pretty funny. But anyway,
Well,
but as a result, I mean, we were just, of course, when you're short staffed unexpectedly, you're slam busy. And I had two guys over 80 hours and two over 70, one over 60, one over 50, which is like everybody was rocking and rolling. So happy when you see that.
yeah. Well, that's
So
awesome. Well, here's the deal, Mike. Good ideas travel, right? It's hard to keep that light under a bush for so long, and so that's uh, always good when successful operators like yourself are willing to share those ideas, and even every now and again when it comes back to bite you in the butt a little bit, it's still a greater good. So I appreciate what you do and what other shop owners do to kind of help share with the industry and help all of us be a little bit better.
Well, I posted about it in the Elite Facebook group, and Dan was having a good laugh at my expense, I think. So that was fun. Anyway, hey, so anyway, this month, I want to do something a little bit different than what we've been doing, and we can certainly talk about CarFix a little bit if we get to that. But you were telling me about a new program that Elite is rolling out, and you were telling me about it, and I was like, "That's awesome," and this is awesome, and that's awesome. You know what? We're going to do that for an episode and let you talk about that a little bit, because the whole point of this series of episodes has been for people to have a window into what it's like to have a coach, and that's been really effective. And I've got a lot of good feedback from folks about it. But the product that you and Elite are launching is unlike anything that I've ever seen in its scope. And so I wanted you to, if you could, just kind of give me the rundown and the details on that, and we can go from there.
Yeah, absolutely, and I appreciate that, Mike. So kind of what I was explaining to you, just to send it out there to the listeners. Probably about a year ago, we noticed that we didn't really have a product. We do a lot of discovery calls with new clients or new potential clients, and then we find out that through our vetting process, the product that we currently have for coaching is just not the right fit for them. Mainly because they're either in the beginning stage of the business, or maybe they're a sole operator, one man band type situation. And you kind of know this as well because you've made yourself available through a lot of the people through ASOG and such throughout the years. A lot of the people that need help are in such a razor thin situation that the ability to afford quality coaching may not be there right now, but they're the ones that need coaching the most, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And so we didn't really have a product that fit those people very well. And then even with some clients that we had that they could absolutely afford the coaching, like it wasn't a financial issue, maybe they're still very much inside the day-to-day operations of the business, and the ability for them to invest an hour a week, they just don't have the time to pull themselves away.
Yeah.
So we sat down and we thought about how could we come up with a product that would still fit for those people that were in need, and whether it was whether they had a deficiency of time or whether they had a deficiency of funds. Again, those are the people that need the help the most. And we wanted to build something out that really worked well for them. So I kind of spent the last year really spending a lot of time interviewing successful shop owners, a lot of whom were in our pro service peer group, and really tried to spend a lot of time with the multi-shop guys.
You never interviewed me.
I did too.
What's that about?
These were informal interviews, Mike.
I'm sorry. You said successful shop owners. Never mind.
We imagine a world where the customer experience is seamless for auto repair. Where every interaction is effortless.
Hey Jen, Sam here. How can I help you?
Hi Sam, I just had a warning light pop up and
Every detail is anticipated.
Yeah, it looks like last time you were in we said there was something that we could possibly need to address with your spark plugs. So let's get you in here and make sure everything's good before you go on your
And every customer feels
You'll
valued.
be getting a text alert shortly. We're going to send Jerry over the car. You'll be able to swap cars with him so you have a loaner for the rest of the day.
Thank you so much.
This is the future with TechMetric. A fully connected system designed to redefine how auto repair shops operate and deliver excellence. From streamlined appointment scheduling to real-time updates, TechMetric empowers shops to work smarter. With integrated payments, transparent pricing, and instant
Actually, it
communication,
was just as we thought. Definitely going to need to replace the spark plug.
customers stay informed and in control at every
Charge,
step.
and we should have that car back to you in a couple hours.
Sounds great.
In TechMetric shops, decisions are powered by data. Owners can track progress in real time. Technicians have the tools to succeed, and service writers focused on what matters most. Building trust with customers. It's not just a repair, it's an experience. A seamless, efficient, and customer-first journey
Jan, it's Mike.
that keeps people coming back.
Sure everything was to your satisfaction.
Fantastic.
Good to hear.
With TechMetric, every moment matters. Every interaction counts.
Look, here's the deal. I like to think that I'm pretty good at running an auto repair shop. It's what I've done for 20 plus years, but I'm not good at managing a marketing budget and all the different facets of a truly well-rounded marketing plan. There's mail, there's local advertising, there's website, there's Google AdWords, there's all the different things that go into that, and it's just not what I'm good at. So what I've chosen to do is to buy myself the time to focus on what I am good at while having someone else execute on all of those things at a way higher level than anything I could ever do. That's what turnkey auto marketing does for me. So if you feel like you could use some of that same magic, I'm going to recommend that you go to turnkeyautomarketing.com, get a free consultation, tell them that I sent you, tell them that Confessions of a Shop Owner sent you. You won't be disappointed. Go ahead.
So actually, to be a little bit more clear on the situation, you remember when I joined Pro Service, you were one of the first people that I called before I joined. And you told me the magic happened kind of outside the meeting room, with the ability to kind of sit down, at dinner, maybe enjoying a drink at the bar and trying to network where you get those one-on-one questions. And so a lot of these were informal interviews where I was just picking the brains of a lot of these guys. And then there was other operators that were outside of our group as well that I've had the chance to get to know over the years and just kind of ask them questions as we went along. And kind of what I learned is by and large, most of these guys that had found a way to duplicate a lot of the things that they duplicated were pretty similar, right? And so not only did I learn things from them and I was able to take it back and apply it in my business, when we started taking a look at this product, the goal kind of was, well, if I could go back to square one when I opened my doors, if I could have a business plan that would allow me to get to $1 to $2 million relatively quickly with the least amount of pain and learning possible, right? So the least amount of hardship learning on the job, making the mistakes. And don't get me wrong, there's no better teacher than failure, and there's no better teacher than learning through those things. But at the same time, it's really painful to go through that stuff. And we all wished at some point in time that, that we had the book of secrets and we could open it up and take a look at it and shortcut that learning curve as much as possible. So, and we kind of set out on a mission over the last 8 months of kind of taking that concept and how to build out a product that would allow us to walk operators through a business model that allows them to get to a functional profitability with the least amount of time possible for them, because it's going to be a different amount of time for everybody. And so we were able to create that product, and we've been running it in the background as a kind of a beta test product for the last 6 months. And we've had a lot of success with it. And we finally decided to kind of share it with the world a little bit. And I appreciate you kind of shining the spotlight on us on that for today. But essentially how the program works is if you think about like you were going to buy a Chick-fil-A franchise, right? If you bought that business, they wouldn't sign the check. You wouldn't sign the check, and they give you a placard that says, "I'm now a Chick-fil-A business owner," and then you figure it all out, right? You're going to go through Chick-fil-A Academy. You're going to get some training. You're going to get some on-the-job training, and then you're going to get a big SOP manual. And that's kind of one of the big benefits of getting into, entrepreneurship via franchise is that they figured out the secret sauce, and you're now taking their SOP manual and just learning their SOPs and then applying it to your day-to-day. So again, it shortens that learning curve. So we took that same kind of similar concept and applied it to automotive, at least in general repair. And Mike, you know this, every single business is 100% different. We can't draw a complete one-to-one comparison of any shop in the country, but by and large, there's on the technical side of training, I've been to ASTA a number of times. Jim Morton's one of my favorite national trainers on the technical side. And he has a saying that, kind of beat into me in this as well, is that 80% of the manufacturers, or all the manufacturers, do 80% of the stuff the same way. It's the 20% that's different, right? So if you learn the 80%, then you have 80% of it figured out, and then you can learn some of the 20 over time, right? So same concept here. 80% of shops really operate under the same guidelines and principles and rules of thumb, from the West Coast to the East Coast, north to south, right? It's kind of the same guiding principles. So
for sure,
we took a look at those guiding principles, and what we were able to do is kind of say there were really 5 key areas that every shop really needed to focus on to be successful. And the first one is just understanding financial literacy as it pertains to owning a business, and particularly owning a shop. So what is it? And that's probably the biggest step that most new business owners skip
right over.
Yeah, we just blow right past it. We open the doors, we get busy with the day-to-day of fixing cars, and we're probably 5-6 years in before we ever even really care anything about a P&L or
managing by checking an account balance.
Management by checking account balance. And while that can keep the lights on, and you can certainly, I don't want to say luck into making some money, because you can do other things right too, but you're going to luck into some of the decisions that you make, and or you're going to cause yourself some pain that you could have avoided had we started with the end in mind, which is, what does a good P&L look like for an automotive repair shop, and for our goals in particular, and also what are the individual budgets inside of the P&L? What are the budgets for the top line? What are the budgets for the cost of goods? What are the budgets for the fixed expenses and the variable expenses? And then what's the overall target? And then how do we take that math and blend it into all of the other KPIs that we're used to looking at, which is like car count and effective labor rate and all of these other things, right? Because at the end of the day, there's 2 sides of the equation when we look at a business, and that's really the only 2 things that are in the business is math and people, right? And so the problem is we have to have the math right first before we can get the people side of the equation right.
If you don't have the math right, you can't afford to have the right people. and you can't give service to the right customers. Right?
That's right. Because all of those things.
So it's not just like financial literacy education. It's also, here are kind of some industry standards and benchmarks that you should aim for.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I always ask about why is 20% net the kind of gold standard that everybody aims at? Why is that? And we've had that conversation on a previous episode. But I think knowing what your labor cost of good and your material parts of good should be, and what your target GP should be, and what your marketing and rent expenses should be, those types of things. It really helps you set up your business correctly right out of the gate, because there are so many conversations about what should my labor rate be, and it has something to do with the labor rate of your neighbors, right? But it should be primarily based upon your business structure and your expense structure and your profit goals and everything else. And
you're 100% right. And so that's in that first phase of this program. That's exactly what we're trying to do. Is we're trying to paint a picture about what should our pricing strategy be for labor? How do we develop what should our effective labor rate target be? A lot of people focus on the door rate. We hear it all the time. What's your door rate? What's your door rate? What's your door rate? But as well as I do that you've had high labor rates for quite some time, and correlating that out to an effective labor rate doesn't always, they're not 1-to-1, right? And so what should the effective labor rate be? Because that's the real math that matters. As far as whether we're going to be profitable or not. So how do we identify what that effective labor rate should be? And then once we identify that, how do we put together what that door rate strategy should be?
Can you just real quickly, for somebody who might be listening that is not familiar with the difference between what your posted door rate is and your effective labor rate is, can you explain that real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. So your door rate's obviously what you have sitting on the wall behind the service counter that says our labor rate is 110, 120, whatever that mythical number that you called around and got the average of every shop in the area and then went $10 under that, right?
Hey, everybody. I wanted to take a minute to tell you about the coaching organization I've been involved with for, over 20 years now, Elite. Elite Worldwide, they don't give you a one-size-fits-all solution. They tailor the coaching specifically to you and your shop. They pair you with an experienced coach who is either a current or a former shop owner, and they turn strategies into actual action and accountability and results. Whether it's improving your service advisor's sales, growing your shop, growing to multiple locations, they really have you covered. They've got training for all of those things. Clients of Elite really see results, higher profits, stronger teams, a better work-life balance. If you're ready to take the next step, visit eliteworldwide.com to schedule your discovery session. That's eliteworldwide.com to start working on your business rather than in it. Tell them that you heard about them on Confessions of a Shop Owner so that I get a pat on the back or maybe a box of chocolates or something. That would be awesome. Thanks.
So that's your door rate. Your effective labor rate is going to be the amount of dollars that you collected in labor income, and we're going to divide that out by the number of production hours that we actually sold to generate those labor dollars. And what you're going to find is typically that number is hopefully not significantly lower, but it's going to be some margin lower than your posted door rate, depending on how your pricing strategy is set up across the board and the mix of work that you're coming in and the skill level of the service advisors that you have at the front and how much emotional discounting they may or may not be doing. It could be a drastic difference.
And so I believe that Elite's benchmark is you want to be at least 90% of your door rate is your effective rate. And I would say that there are dudes who are over 100%, and then there are dudes who are like 60%, right? So is that 90% number a pretty solid benchmark?
85 to 90% is typically what we shoot for. It is getting, depending on how your entire labor pricing strategy is put in place, sometimes it can be difficult to get to that 90%. Just because of commodity, and depending on the mix of work that you're doing of canned services and commodity services. Because there are some jobs that are just going to, you can't price, like in North Carolina, and this our pricing for state inspections is mandated. So you can only charge a set fee for that service. So your effective labor rate is going to get abused pretty hard, depending on how much of that type of work you're bringing in. So but typically we like to see it around 85%. Anything north of that is great.
Okay, copy that. Okay, I'm sorry, that was a tangent.
No.
I apologize. I'll let you
No,
get
that's
back on
great.
course.
And
So we talked about financial literacy and benchmarking and standards. What is the second of those 5 areas?
Yeah. And so the second of those 5 areas. So again, not only did we set out to try to put a program together that we try to give you all the documentation and all the resources that you're going to need to come up with all this stuff on your own. So we've created tools and calculators that help you walk through this stuff. So it's not just a, hey, you should figure out your labor rate and what it is. There's some documentation that shows you exactly, gives you a white paper to read on how to do that. Then there's a tool, and then there's a video on how to use the tool. So we tried to make it as individually successful as possible, and that way you need the least amount of support, hopefully throughout the program as you can get.
And you also told me, I think, that like if this is like a startup or somebody who's never had QuickBooks or anything like that, you even got like example chart of accounts to set up.
Absolutely. Yep.
And,
so we're going to give you a chart of accounts on day one. Obviously, you're going to have to tailor that. You're going to have to work with your bookkeeper or accountant to kind of tailor it to exactly what you are. But if you took exactly what we gave you and you plugged it in, you would have a high level chart of accounts on day one. And that's probably one of the biggest things that we see from a coaching side of things is just really poorly structured, P&Ls, that it's very difficult to diagnose the business on what's going on the way that the chart of accounts is set up, just because most bookkeepers and most accountants are tax planners, and all they really care about is the total dollar amount down at the bottom. And no matter how you structure the P&L, as long as the information is in there, the net income will be the same. But from an evaluation of the business standpoint, the chart of accounts matters greatly. And just to the technicians that are out there listening, the analogy that I like to give to those technicians turned owners is, if we were looking at a scan tool and we had data PIDs that we could choose, and I chose all of the data PIDs that were available on a car, it would be very difficult for me to take a look at one screen and diagnose what I was trying to diagnose. Whereas if I dial it down to a specific set and I know what I'm looking for, and I can look at those things and I can get that information a lot better. But to move on to your other question as far as what's the next step. So once we've got your labor pricing squared away, we have sample pricing matrix for your parts. We'll do a parts pricing analysis and then allow you to plug in the right matrix for you, because everybody's in a different journey in a different area when it comes to parts pricing. So we have 3 different options set in place there. So once we got the financial structure in place, we have the labor strategy in place, the pricing strategy for parts in place, and we have the KPI targets that we're going to need to be able to be profitable. Then what we can do is we're going to focus on the core processes that it takes to, when a car comes in the door, how do we turn that car into opportunities, right? And so we've had these conversations both on the call, for our meetings, and then off to the side in the past. But, I ask every one of my clients, and I ask all of my internal team at my store, what business are we really in? And if you think about what side of the business really drives revenue for automotive repair shops, it's discovery, right? Without discovery, you're going to limit your potential of revenue no matter what you do after that. Right. So if you're only fixing what the customer requests, you're only doing the oil change, you're only doing the tires, you're only doing the brakes, you're limiting the entire potential of the business. So, and a lot of the people that we're working with through these programs are those tech turned owner, type situations. And again, when you're the one man band, you get caught up in not having the time. You think you don't have time to do all these things. So we see that as a big limiting factor right out of the gate. So we put together a section there that really explains what Discovered Services is, how to calculate Discovered Services, what the benchmarks and targets for Discovered Services are, and then some processes for the front counter and then also the back of the house that promote Discovered Services. So things like what does a basic PMI look like?
Yeah.
What are the discovery standards, between red, yellow, and green? Do we, what is that communication from the front to the back when the technician is done and it comes back up to the front? What is the service advisor's expectations, for discovery? How do we do preventative maintenance? All of those things are wrapped up in that second phase. Again, because now once we have some natural car count, anytime we turn the open sign on, there's going to be something that comes in the door. So having everybody on the same page as far as what to do when we get presented with that opportunity is our next step. And then our third step there is, now we understand how to maximize opportunity off of a car. Then it's, what do we do with that opportunity, right? Because we're going to have the reason that the vehicle came in, the original concern, then we're going to have some tech finds, and then we're going to have some preventative maintenance type things that need to get done. How do we create an experience, both with the front of house and back of house, that promotes natural sales, right? Mm-hmm. And there's strategy in how that process needs to be set up. And this gives you a fundamental, SOP manual of how to work somebody in from customer intake to vehicle discovery, to technician discovery, to the sales process, whether it be in store or out, whether it be outbound phone call. And then also the beginning stages of phone skills. So what are the incoming phone call scripts sound like? And we've had these conversations a lot offline as well. And we were able to partake in some of the stuff through the pro service meetings together, where we got to listen to phone calls and things like that. But the ability to turn a phone call into an in-store visit is paramount, right? Before you go spending any dollars and cents on external marketing, being able to handle the current workflow that you have available to you on the discovery side and on the phone call side is priority.
Well, and if you're ever going to grow out of being required on site from open to close for your business to function, you have to have a process. Really, I guess for all of these things that we're talking about, it rings true to me because that's where my upbringing was. It was on the counter, right? Unless you have a process so that the customer gets the same experience every time, the way that you want them to have that experience, you'll never get freedom from the business. So,
yeah, and you're 100% right. And a lot of the times, what happens as a new business owner is you start the business, it organically grows to some level for you to hire somebody. And especially if you're the technician, the last place any technician wants to be is at the front counter, right? So we go hire a service advisor, and hopefully we hire somebody that we think is a good service advisor. And then what we do is we abdicate the entire service counter process to that service advisor, right? Because they know that more than we do. And we are 100% bound to their training and their experience prior to coming to us. So I think one of the most powerful things that you can start off with is developing a good customer experience and training the team for what your customer experience is supposed to be, and not just allowing it to naturally happen inside of the store based off their previous experiences. Because most of us got into the industry because we felt like everybody else was doing it wrong. And yet a year later, we wind up hiring people that perpetuate all of the things that we said that we didn't like about how things were being done, simply because either A, we don't have the knowledge to change it, or I'll call it for what it is, we're too lazy to do it, right?
Well, and I think there is a vicious cycle of technicians who get fed up with terrible bosses and terrible workplaces, and they go out and start their own business, and 5 years later, they've been ground down to a nub because they never sought out the right way to go about business. And they've turned into that terrible boss that they left, 5-10 years ago. Totally happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not their intention. It's just natural attrition of day to day. Like you said, they just get ground down over time. So, as that guy, when do you have time to sit down at the kitchen table and write out all these SOPs and, get the book and learn how to review your financials and learn all this stuff. So, this is a better way. It gives you a really good launching point of, starting off to give you something that you can take that, like I said, is about 80% of the way there. And you just have to learn over the next couple of years how to take it that extra 20. So the next phase, after we get through the third phase of, incoming phone skills, some sales ability and the processes that promote the customer experience to allow a sales presentation to happen successfully. Then we worry about what is our customer retention? How do we get those customers to come back? Right? What do we have in place that is not just going to get us a one-trick pony sale? We want a customer for life. And again, there's a whole set of actions and processes that have to take place that allow that to happen. And so we go over the vehicle delivery. We're going over retention programs, internal marketing, customer follow-ups, how to create wow moments for customers that really make a difference there. So that's what we spend a lot of time there. And then at the tail end of that, once we got the internal marketing strategy kind of in place, then we talk about, what are the external marketing strategies? Because once we have all of those other things in place, right, now I have because again, we talk this as math and people. So once I know that every car that comes in, I'm going to get $2,000 worth of discovery off of it. And once I know I have a standard of return off of that discovery, which is going to be my closing percentage, and I have an ARO that I know I'm going to get. Now it's just, and I know that I'm going to retain a certain number of each car that comes in because I've got a dedicated retention plan. Now it's just how many more cars can I add to this, to lift it up and scale the business out, right? So we run through those processes. And then the final phase is, and the reason that we put this last and not first, it's probably the most important part of it in all honesty, but it's the part that takes the longest and it never stops. And that is leadership, employee development, employee management, employee retention and employee recruiting. So it's the people side of it, right? And again, we decided to put the numbers first, mainly because so many people breeze past the numbers and they're underfunded to be able to afford good people and to be able to afford some of these other plans. And we didn't want that to happen. We didn't want to have to backtrack back to that. So
I've totally had that experience in the past, being at these meetings where we're talking about retention and recruiting, and I hear about all these incredible benefits and awesome things that these people are doing for their employees. And all I could think was, God bless America. How much money are they? How do they have so much money to be able to do that? Like, oh, wait, they got their shit in a row first.
Yeah.
So that they could actually make some money and then they could afford to do that.
And it's funny that you say that because I remember having one of my one-on-one coaching calls early on and my coach telling me that, A-level talent always produces better than, B or C level talent. And at some point in time, you're just going to have to bite the bullet and you may have to pay a guy $100,000 a year. And I remember the thought that I had running through my brain when he told me that, and I'm thinking to myself, you gotta be kidding me.
I want to make $100,000 a year.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what I was thinking in all honesty, but that the average median income in our community is $38,000. And I'm thinking I'm going to pay a mechanic 103 times the average income of the area. And you wonder how that's even possible, but that's because you don't have a good understanding of the financial structure of how to set all those things up to allow that to happen. And, fast forwarding a couple of years, once we got those things dialed in and I had my pricing structure set in place where I could be profitable, you can have $100,000 a year technician, right? You can have $100,000 a year service advisor. And you may not need to in your area, you may not need to in your business, but we want to be able to set it up where whatever that level is in your area that you can follow the strategy that you have for recruiting, right? Where you can make strong offers really quickly, not have to think about it. If you think about how most of your hiring went in the early stages, it was a negotiation. You were asking them how much they made before, like how much you're currently making now.
Yeah.
And you were trying to increase it the least amount possible to make it, but still incentivize them to switch jobs, right? And so if you had an hourly guy that was making $15 an hour, you're like, let me shoot him $17.50 and see what he says, right?
Yes.
Which if
that was absolutely a mindset at one point in my career, for sure.
And so, now your mindset is what is this position worth to me? And I pay what the position is worth. And then I evaluate whether the candidate has the skill set to fit the position, and you wind up hiring better candidates, right? Because you have a plan and a strategy in place to be able to hire those candidates. So in that phase, we, really what we work on a lot there is we have the job description. So we have some job descriptions that we've created that, again, will get you 80 to 90% of the way there for almost every position in the shop. We have sample pay plans. Again, these are rough ideas of different styles of pay plans that you could use for inspiration.
We can set up the format and just change the dollars to match your market, right?
Yeah, and change the format to match whatever the laws of your state are, because there's going to be different laws in each state about what pay plans you can and can't use. But
if you're listening to this, just move out of California or New York. Just go somewhere else, or Illinois. Just go somewhere else.
Yeah, just don't come to North Carolina.
Yeah, we got enough competition.
But so we spend a lot of time in that section. And again, not only do we have tools and resources there, we spend a lot of time covering, writing out some papers that, really explain why and what. And then, so things like how to hold your team accountable versus just disciplining, how to have one-on-one meetings, how to do employee reviews. So, really that entire employee management structure. And then, making sure that we have some employee escalation pathways. How do we show them a career? How do they know when they go from the $15 an hour kid that's sweeping the floor to a $50 an hour guy, diagnosing cars? Try to give them what that pathway looks like. And then the final step and phase that we have in there is we do a reevaluation of the business at that point in time, and we redo a break-even point, because hopefully we've had some pretty strong growth over the time, and some of those numbers have changed. And from there, we're putting out a 30, 60, 90 day corrective action plan, to try to continue to scale and grow the business.
So you get these 5 different stages, and you have to go through them sequentially. And my understanding is that they're relatively self-paced. So if you are motivated and willing to take action, you can get through them relatively quickly. Or if you're always finding excuses, you're not ever going to get through them. Does that sound pretty accurate?
Yeah. So, and again, to make this program something that's affordable for every single individual that owns a repair shop, regardless of whether you're starting out on day one or you're 22 years into the business, obviously we had to build something that was fairly self-sufficient, from a client standpoint. So the way that the program works is that you would sign on with us. You would get assigned a coach or an accountability partner, which is really more of what that individual is going to be in this role, because you're going to be kind of your own coach. We're going to give you the SOP manual. We're going to give you the resource documents, and we're going to give you the tools that you're going to need to try to work through these phases. And then you would have access to your accountability partner that's going to, either do some mild one-on-one training and coaching through the documents or through some of the tools to try to help you. And then you have access to some of the members on the internal team if you need some additional support here and there to try to push through some of those phases. But you're 100% right, Mike. There's going to be some people that jump on board here, and they're able to consume this content really, really quickly. And they're able to advance through some of these levels very quickly. And then they might hit a stage where, either due to their personal abilities or the team, or just whatever stage of the business that they're in, they stall out in a particular spot, right? We have clients as simple as the concept of discovered services is, it's not necessarily the simplest thing to implement, right? Depending on the team and the experience that the team has. So we could be stuck in the discovery phase for quite some time while we're implementing those things. And I know that, there might be some people out there that get frustrated and they're thinking, well, I need more car count. I need more car count. Our philosophy there is if we were patient and we allow the process to mature and get to the level of discovered services that we need, then when we do put marketing dollars to it, our return on investment is going to be, usually 3 to 4 times the amount.
Well, so there are absolutely situations out there where people need more cars, right?
Sure.
but I would venture that the larger frequency is that they need better processes with the cars they have.
Yep.
Be that from discovery to customer experience to sales to retention. If you don't have those steps in place, then you need a river of cars.
Yep.
But if you it's the difference between a $300 ARO where I was a decade ago and a $900 ARO.
And
Right.
you know as well as I do, when that ARO is that low, a lot of times that's your 1-star reviews, right? Those are almost always your bad customer experiences. And
it's lower margin work more often than not, and it's stressful, and they're stressed, and
Yep.
you're stressed, and yeah, it's just
it's a bad employee experience. It's a bad customer experience. So, when I started racing, there would be some. I was usually the youngest guy, when I very first started. And there would always be, no matter what racetrack I was at, there would always be some guy that had been there for 20, 30, 40 years, right? And he would come over and they want to impart their wisdom on you. And one of the consistent things that I would always hear from some of my older peers, that I would race with is they had a saying that they would all say, and I didn't really understand it because at 19, you just don't understand these types of things, but they would say, you have to slow down to go fast, right? And to me, that was like the stupidest thing in the world. I'm like, that makes no sense. How do you can't slow down and go faster. So as the smart ass kid, I would go out there and I would really slow down and I would come back in and I would say, see, I slowed down and I just slowed down. Really what they were saying is don't overdrive the corners. You have to be intentional with what you're doing and not just cram it in there as far as you can and stomp on the brakes and yank the steering wheel over and turn. So from a business standpoint, it's kind of the same concept, right? And I made that mistake because I'm hard-headed. And but my previous business experience was selling widgets, right? And if I want to sell more widgets, the only thing I need is more customers, right? I don't need to change my experience that much more. I just need to drive more customers to my website and sell more widgets, right? So I understood the concept of getting more people. And the first year that I was in business, we were doing 100, 120 cars a week. And like you said, I had one of those sub $300 AROs, and it was a horrible work environment. It was a horrible customer experience. It was a horrible employee experience. It was an even worse owner experience. So, applying that same concept of slowing down, of slowing down a little bit, being more intentional with the customer experience, having a strategy behind somebody walking in the door, working a customer intake, process, working an actual sales or discovery process, working an actual sales process, working a retention process, and then working a vehicle delivery process. When you put all of those things together, you see the ARO go up. You can slow the car count down a little bit to be able to achieve that. And then, then later what you learn is how do I add car count and staff to be able to scale that? And you learn the tipping points of when we start to break those processes a little bit. You learn what KPIs to look at to know that, oh, yep, we got too many cars. We got 4 too many this week. And then you find the sweet spot over time of, what is enough cars to generate the revenue that, top line revenue that you're looking for. And then what is too many cars that waters down the customer experience.
How long do you think it should take? And we've kind of addressed it a little bit, but it depends on the energy level and intentionality of the shop owner. But how long do you think it should take to work through this program at an average pace?
I would say, and again, these things are evergreen, because as well as I do, as soon as you get one section implemented and you move on to the next section, a portion of the last section is going to break down a little bit. You're going to have to go back and retouch it. So these things never die. I mean, it's not like your customer experience is 100% ironed out. You have a good strategy for it. The strategy's ironed out, right? But the implementation of it never stops.
Yeah.
So I would say, as far as working your way through all of this stuff and getting all the information together, 6 months to a year, I think would be, a realistic expectation of being able to work through all of this stuff. The guys that are super, super, super aggressive, again, are going to, or that they come in and maybe they have three out of the 5 things already in place, right? They're just missing some of the other stuff. And we see that from time to time as well, where you'll have somebody, they're an established business, the P&L is pretty good. Maybe we need to do some light tweaking and training on what they should be doing with it each month. But that's a one conversation deal and they're moving on to step 2. Maybe their discovery is already good. So I say, hey, whatever you're currently doing for discovery, if you don't have it documented, just document it, right? And then we're moving on to the next phase, and then we're moving on to the next phase. So some of that depends on where they're coming in as a client and where the business is matured to. And then some of that, most of it's just dependent on the operator themselves and, what their core commitment to growth is.
I think you've said it's self-paced, right? So, and you put like the leadership and recruiting and retention stuff at the end, and you put the financial literacy stuff in the beginning. If somebody signs up and they're like, "No, I've got all my financial stuff. That's good. I just need the recruiting stuff." Can they go straight to step 5, or does somebody gatekeep that and make sure that they show competency?
So the answer is a little bit of both.
Okay.
So we give some discretion to the accountability coach that says, hey, let's just say maybe they don't even have their stuff together all the way. Let's just say they're 100% foundational, right? But let's say there's an emergency situation where for whatever reason, they really do need cars. Like we're only getting one car every other day, right? Yeah. Well, there does become an element there where car count supersedes everything else because we have to have cars to be able to run processes through, right? Yeah. So if we have a situation that pops up like that, or for whatever reason, we've had clients come in and for the way they found us, they lost all their staff, right? And they have this big 10-bay shop and they've just lost everybody. So we'll skip to the thing that's most important to them at the moment in those scenarios. But making sure that we always go back to the foundation of, do we have a break even in place? Do we have pricing strategies in place? Do we understand what our KPI targets and goals should be? Because just like we talked about, if we don't have that stuff in place and we don't have a good understanding of that, then everything else winds up, we wind up hiring the wrong people with the wrong pay plans, and, everything else winds up suffering as a result of it.
That makes sense. So questions everybody's going to want to ask, and I don't know what's appropriate is, we talked early on that there are a lot of startup businesses that can't afford $1,500, $2,000 a month for a coaching partnership. And so I'm assuming this is significantly less than that, but I also don't want to assume out loud and make an ass of myself. What does that look like, or how does that work?
Yeah. So the way that we have this, so we have some promo pricing for this in a couple different areas right now. So rather than giving a kind of a one size fits all pricing, what I will say is this: it is cheaper than most shop management systems and CRMs combined. So if you guys are out there, you know what you're paying for TechMetric, you know what you're paying for Shop Genie. This product would be less than that. So when we look at a monthly expense, we tried to come up with something that, again, provided so much value for what the price point was going to be to the end user, that the price point was digestible no matter what the income level of the shop was, and the value was going to be there for almost every operator that would like to participate in this. Because as well as I do, Mike, we have some really good operators that we both know that don't have job descriptions, don't have SOPs in place. Nothing's documented. It's this, even for those guys.
This is like a full franchise kit.
Yeah.
Like just without the branding.
Yep.
Right. And without the need to send a portion of your revenue back to, actually, yes, a portion of your revenue comes back to Confessions of a Shop Owner if you use our referral link. And so
you got your royalties link sent to straight to Venmo.
Exactly. Well, obviously, if you are intrigued by this and want to learn more, reach out to Matt. You can find him online. You can call 253-655-7053 also, and tell them that a dumbass on a podcast sent you, and I'm sure they'll take good care of you. But I think it's a pretty neat product, and I know that there are companies out there that will say they've got a similar product available, but the volume of content and the step-by-step process and kind of the the full kit that you're talking about at the price point that you're talking about, less than the cost of your point of sale software, or your CRM software. I mean, it's pretty remarkable. So I think more people should hear about it. So
Yeah,
cool.
And
that's
we're
why we
really,
didn't talk about CarFix today.
Yeah. So we're really excited about it, and I appreciate you giving me a platform to be able to share that information. And but yeah, let's dig into a little bit of CarFix if we got some time.
Oh, damn it. I was hoping that we were out of time. I really don't. Man, it was bad. It was bad. It was really ugly. If you recall, 2 months ago was the best month ever at that store. I'm pulling up numbers. And I haven't updated the numbers in your spreadsheet because I didn't want you to yell at me. I'd rather you yell at me for not filling the numbers out than what they actually are. And we dropped from, I think it was 143 to like 108, right?
Right.
And same car count, same number of technicians, but I lost half of my front counter team because I transferred them out to help at other stores.
Yep.
And I've continued to grow and build the other stores and have done nothing to fix Hillsborough Street as far as getting help for the service advisor. And oddly, the results have continued to not be great. So, good news front. Been some significant changes in personnel that are executing last week and this week, and we should be back up to full staff, assuming Homeboy shows up working his notice by the end of this month at all 3 stores, not just for Hillsborough. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll leave it there, and we'll have a positive meeting on our next one when we see the fruits of the labor.
It's going to be so good. You're going to be so proud of me, Dad. It's going to be great. Oh, man. So momentary brag. This is totally unrelated. If you don't give a shit, you can just turn the podcast off now. My daughter graduated to adult cart. She's 10 years old, and we've been on the track together. They're letting her out on adult carts now.
Not a Miata.
Not a Miata. This is much faster than a Miata. And she's only gotten a couple of heats in on the adult carts. She's still about a quarter a second a lap slower than me. But once she figures out how to manage some of the high speed turns, she misses her apex every time. She will flip and crush me, and it's going to be amazing. I can't wait.
Now, are you guys in a karting club together?
Yeah. They're rental carts, so we haven't. She wants to do the league, the juniors league that they have, and I told her if she does that and she does the whole league, and she's still all about it, that I might look at getting her an LO206 and start going up to VIR or Trackhouse or CMP. I think has a little track too, so it should be fun.
Yeah, I'm
living vicariously through her, so
I get it.
Anyway,
well, you're going to have to get Hillsborough Street squared away if that's the case, because I don't think you want to see the math on competitive karting.
Yeah. It's just a hole. It's like a boat. It's a hole in the water that you throw money into. And it's a hole at the track that you throw money into.
It's a much bigger hole than a boat, Mike.
Step 1, unfuck CarFix. Step 2, throw money away in karting. Got it.
So the joke in racing is, you know how to make $1 million in racing, right?
Start with 2.
You start with 2.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. I will say that I think the podcast is going to go ahead and buy the Miata from me so that I can get it branded fully. So I'm looking forward to that.
You guys, you should do the Lemons race at VIR.
You know, I'm not opposed to that. What's the cost cap on that? Is it like $5,000?
It's $5,000 or less. It has to, for the purchase price of the vehicle, it has to have a roll cage, and you can spend whatever you want on the safety features and everything. And I think you get 4 drivers, and it's whoever makes the most laps.
Well, I mean, I bought it for $500. I've got way more than $500 in it now because it needed everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be fun.
Well, I mean, the Miatas, RX-7s, and like the old school BMWs, are kind of the preferred
like
cars for that
E36
deal.
or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah. So cool. Well, hey man, have a great evening.
absolutely. You do as well, Mike.
See ya.